All right, so I wasn't going to do a video tonight because I'm exhausted from work and I'm really agitated from talking to ChatGPT. I got in my car after work and I asked ChatGPT one simple question. Why do we live in a world where we have to have food stamps? I kept asking it questions like this. Why can't we fix poverty? Why can't we ask the corporations to pay their workers what they actually need in order to survive? Every single time that I asked that question, ChatGPT would say, my community guidelines won't let me talk about that. Regardless of how I poked at it to give me an answer as to why poverty has to exist among the working class, it shut me down at every single corner. Like it just flat out said, I work for them. There are no solutions. Keep going to McDonald's every day. Because the only way that you'll be able to continue paying your rent. And today I was talking to Gen Z about how he spends 100% of his monthly income on rent. And the only way that a person like that, a young person, can afford to live is with generous influxes of money from their either millennial, late millennial parents or Gen X parents. Because without them, the vast majority of Gen Z would be on the street right now or just not trying at all. Because in a world in which we need food stamps, we need vouchers for housing, and you need every help that you can imagine while you're working. That's what I don't understand. Why are working class people the ones that are going hungry right now? Isn't working enough? And the answer is simple to that question. It's not enough, and it never will be enough again. I was telling Gen Z this morning that I make 4 times more than my parents did. I don't have a house. I don't have vacations. I don't have enough food. I don't have enough for anything. I basically have to sit here in the dark after work waiting for work to start again with no hope of ever being able to leave this isolation unit inside of this prison. Here at Cell Block B, no one that lives here makes enough money to live. You look at the sad faces of all of the people that are forced to live here at Cell Block B. They're not happy, they're not thriving, and there's absolutely nothing that they can do to turn around their circumstances. Absolutely nothing. The average proletariat has nothing to offer to guarantee a living wage. So why isn't the government fixing this? Because from the government's perspective, there's nothing wrong. And that's what ChatGPT kept saying today. There is nothing wrong. It's just that people aren't trying hard enough. If there isn't a single job within walking distance of where I live that would offer a living wage, is that really a system that's working? Every one of these businesses around me has to have workers on food stamps because there's no way that you can afford to live here on the average paycheck for a regular person. And remember, I'm a person that's made between $13,000 and $19,000 my entire adult life. That's a MIC paycheck in a nutshell. Because if you can't access higher wages because of your education level or your connections, you're going to be stuck paycheck to paycheck. And we know that paycheck to paycheck only leads to homelessness. All right, let's get into our monologue. You ever work a 40-hour work week and still have to decide between gas or groceries? Welcome to America, where your full-time job is just a subscription service to poverty. They keep telling us to work harder while the CEO naps on luxury jets with gold-stitched seatbelts. But here's a radical idea. What if they just paid us enough to live? The abolishing of the food stamp program and abolishing all Social Security in our society should be based around whether or not the corporations are willing to pay people enough money so that they can buy a home pay off a car, and not live in debt slavery for their entire existence. But no, we can't do that. There are no solutions to any sort of social problem. The only solution is to blame yourself, pull yourself up by your bootstraps while you can't afford shoes. Talking point number one. This isn't about luxury. It's about the fact that you need $2,000 to survive in a room with four walls and a door that locks. But the moment you ask for a living wage, they ask you like you're demanding a golden throne and a yacht made of caviar. That's what happens in this country. Every time someone asks, why do things have to be like this? Who invented food stamps? Food stamps were invented so the corporations could pay you less, right? That's why food stamps exist, because in a perfect world, or even an acceptable world, no one would need anything. We'd have universal basic health care, and you wouldn't need food stamps because you could afford to pay for the universal basic health care because you made enough. And when you make enough, guess who makes enough too? Uncle Sam. Because we know one thing about rich people and their class, the 1%. They're allergic to paying their fair share. It's almost like they have a disease that sees regular life as for the proletariat, and then for the 1%, they're like, well, remember, socialism for us, tough, rugged individualism for you. Can't make it by working at Walmart? Well, guess what? Tough. Remember, everything that hurts you as a poor person is supposed to build character. Start working in the mailroom. Work yourself up to the executive class of people. That doesn't happen. This is a simple reason why it doesn't. Those jobs don't go to people like you and me. One of the executives that worked at Taco Bell went over to be the CEO of Chipotle, and when he couldn't make that work, he's now the CEO of Starbucks. Those class of people stay within their class. They're absolutely disgusted by the people that work for them. Absolutely grossed out. In fact, a few years ago, I read a story about a corporate office where the executive and high-level people didn't want to share a door with the regular working class people. They wanted their own entrance into the building because they didn't want to have to look at those people that they see as non-people. Because it's a simple way of ignoring humanity is by pretending that they don't exist. They're simply the people that you use, that you exploit daily in order to create billions of dollars of record profit while poverty creeps up the working up and up into higher levels of the working class. $100,000 isn't $100,000 anymore. It probably has the actual buying power of about 30,000. So if you think about that and you drop into that equation what you're making compared to what the buying power is of so-called good paying jobs, they've set you up to fail from the very beginning. The second you report to an hourly job, you've already failed. Because if you're paying so much money out of your paycheck just in survival needs, just food and shelter, that you don't have enough money for a savings account, then your retirement plan doesn't exist. There is no end in this system for you to be able to prosper. That's not built into this in any conceivable way. The system was built to exploit you, profit from you, and when you can't work anymore, they put you down just like a derby horse. Because if you're not working, you're not worth anything. And at that point, the system sees no value in people who aren't contributing actively to the wealth of the 1%. That's why there's no rescue coming for the homeless. There's no rescue coming for people making low wages. There's no rescue coming for people that need the most help right now in our society. And that help isn't going to come through education. I'm one of the most educated people I've ever met. I still work at McDonald's. Why? Because I have to. I don't have a choice whether I'm going to work at McDonald's, Burger King, or I don't know, what's the other one? Wendy's. They're all the same. In fact, close to my work, there's literally a Chick-fil-A, a McDonald's, a Wendy's, and a Burger King. Across from there, there's a coffee shop. You know what all those places have in common? Everyone that works inside of those places, long-term poverty. There's no growing your stocks. There's no investing in real estate. It's just a job. And someone put this into the comments section of my morning video, but they were talking about getting $23 in food stamp help from working their minimum wage job. And I remember one time when I was working at Walmart, one of the girls that was working there, semi-attractive, her boyfriend was kind of well off, but from her full-time paycheck working at Walmart, she got $16 of food stamps per month. They are incredibly stingy with all of that aid. You literally have to be on the straight in order for you to qualify for anything. And they will go through you, through your finances with a fine-tooth comb, finding any way that they can disqualify you. In fact, I would say that every single government agency goes out of their way in order to make certain that you can't qualify for anything. Why? Because they don't want to waste their resources on you. They would much rather buy whatever they need in order to continue their tyranny in other places. Because helping Americans is not cool. Helping anyone isn't good. If they don't stand to profit from what they're doing, they don't want anything to do with it. This hasn't been the United States of America in a long, long, long time. It's the corporate states of America. The corporations run the shows. They get the government contracts. They're the ones who directly benefit. Why would they want to invest into something that's not useful? Eventually, they're going to round up all the homeless people in this country and do something useful with them, whether that's turn them into Soylent Green or make certain that they can stay in a place where they can exploit them for their labor forcibly. And when you think, oh, millennials, team, you're crazy, they already do that. It's called the American prison system, where prisoners can make up to $1 a day while large corporations use their favorite kind of American labor. They don't want American labor in factories where they might have to pay the minimum wage. The more people they can incarcerate for profit, the better it is. Because for-profit prisons were invented for that reason alone. They can charge the state for every prisoner, and they can use the prisoners for labor. It's a win-win situation. You get those people out of regular jobs, and then once you put them into the prison system, they can't escape anymore. Because now you've been marked by the American prison system as being not worth being paid the minimum wage. So now the vicious cycle begins. You get put into the system because you couldn't make it out here, and now you're trapped in that system because now it's marked you as being one of those people. And that happens to millions of people. It's not just a little tiny problem. It is a systemic problem in this country that American corporations love prison labor just because of what it is. That truly is slave labor. Talking point number 2. Let's be real. The labor shortage isn't laziness. It's exhaustion. It's a decision of being gaslit by corporate America into believing survival is a privilege you should earn by smiling through 10-hour shifts. Every corporation feels that way. That's why they make it a point to make certain that you're always smiling. And that when you're working in customer service, public facing, regardless of whether the public can see you, if you're answering a telephone in a call center, they want you smiling. Because they don't want miserable workers. They don't want the people there that make other people feel bad for them. When I was working at Kroger's one time, the front manager told me that I couldn't be at work if I was wearing clothes that didn't look new. She literally told me you can only come to work if your clothes don't look used or faded. And I was like, but you don't pay me enough to buy clothes that are new or buy clothes that look a certain way. Or like Walmart, where they had the polo shirt and the khaki pants requirement, either khaki or dress pants. And it stayed like that for years. How were those workers supposed to afford that? They don't care. Because in order to have a job, you have to have certain resources already at your disposal. And if you don't have those resources, you're not going to get hired. They don't want people showing up at work looking haggard and disgusting. They want you showing up at work clean, ready, motivated. They don't want Debbie Downer in their corporations. And Walmart flat out said it. If you look depressed, we're not hiring you because we want people that look like they want to be there. When I worked at Walmart, the general manager's daily statement was, I only want people working in this store that want to be here. And I would look at him and I would laugh at him. And it really got under his skin. The fact that no matter how hard they try to break some people, it didn't work. When I worked at Kroger's and I asked why no one could get a full shift, and she said, because we don't want to pay people medical benefits. If we keep people at a certain amounts of hours, then we don't have to pay medical. And that saves them a lot, even though the medical insurance is of the worst possible quality. They don't want you to have anything. They want you to have nothing and be happy. And I keep saying that because look at the system, the way that it's built. It looks like it was designed by someone that hates human beings. And especially those human beings that don't have any resources. Talking point number 3. It's ritual humiliation. A grotesque theater where exhausted workers are tossed branded water bottles and told to just manifest abundance. All while the C-suite lines up to cash stock options that are worth more than your entire family's lifetime income. I've been saying this for my entire adult life, is that you could work 1,000 lifetimes in a row. And during all of those times, if you didn't happen to respawn in rich, you were going to live from birth to the end with nothing. Not a day of happiness lived, not a single penny in your savings account, no memories of going on vacation, no happy thoughts. Like I've told you guys before, I block out every single memory that I have from yesterday. Because there's nothing to remember about yesterday or my past life. There's nothing good there. I have no positive memories of family or friends or anything of that sort. Everything that's in my past, when you remember those things, all it makes you is depressed. That's how life feels. Everything in your past is about suffering to get to your next paycheck. And then once you get there, you realize that there's just another 2 weeks of suffering till you get to your next paycheck. And you put that on repeat for 60 years, and then you wonder once you keel over, well, if we really do respawn into another body just to do it again, that is an incredibly cruel system. It's like opening your eyes and being in prison, knowing there's a whole world out there that you will never get to experience because you're poor, because you work here, because the humiliation of life isn't enough that you have to be poor. It's that you have to wear a uniform that makes you visible as a failure to everyone around you. When you're working the drive-through window and you say the same thing over and over and over again all day long while making hamburgers, it's not about the dignity of work. It's always been about the humiliation of work. So yeah, what if they just paid us enough? Enough to stop calling GoFundMe a healthcare plan or budgeting like you're on a reality show called Survivor Dollar Store Edition. But they won't, because desperation is profitable and poverty makes a great employee. So until the checks get bigger, the rent gets lower, or the guillotine gets assembled. Wow. Wasn't expecting that one, ChatGPT. The guillotine gets assembled. That's a lot sharper than I expected. A program that said I can't, my community guidelines won't let me talk about that for 20 minutes today. That was very unexpected, and I am going to leave this video there.